Ronaldo and Conor McGregor, like, they're kind of suffering from exactly the same thing, in that they're just defiantly, I'm still the guy.
No, I honestly believe that Ronaldo knows that he's not the same.
Really?
But he's modified his game, and he works between the 18-yard box and wants to fucking score goals. If he gets service, he'll score the goals.
But when he did that interview with Piers, there's a hint of like...
What did you think of that?
Well, I only seen the clips. I felt his anger, that he felt disrespected. Like, he felt like, I've come here, I'm your top goal scorer, you've put me on 500 grand a week because I'm the main man, you need me. And
by the way, I want to get this out. Do you really think Ronaldo's only on 500 grand a week?
Oh, it'll be more than that, yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So that we know of, right? Yeah. And then in season 2, he's like, right, ready to pick up where I left off last time. And then Ten Hag's like, easy, Tiger, I'll put you on the bench. And then he gives it I'm not going to disrespect Ronaldo by bringing him on late in games when they're losing to Man City, was it? And then
6-2,
yeah, and then he literally tries to do that exact thing a matter of a few weeks later. I'm not saying Ten Hag's completely to blame here, but I see why Ronaldo's like, in his head, he's like, what the fuck is going on?
And no player is bigger than a team. I get that, but there are some players that are like Messi, Ronaldo, Zidane. You don't bring these players on for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
As a manager, you know what you're doing.
Well, so the fans...
and no, I'm not disrespecting Ten Hag. Listen, it's a fucking tough situation to come into a football club that is in transition. You've got Ronaldo, and he's played it brilliantly, and Ronaldo just had a bite up. Like, I see Carragher, he's a disgrace, he should be sacked, and da-da-da-da. Was he wrong? Yes. Can I call him a disgrace when I've not played right wing for the greatest England manager since Sir Alf Ramsey? I understand we're humans, we fuck up. For people to say he's a fucking disgrace and he should be sacked, and I get on really well with Carragher. It was only 2 years ago you had your incident and where you could have lost your job at Sky.
Carragher with
Carragher. Yeah. And we're all things, but so I just like, if I was a pundit on the TV, I would have said he's wrong. You cannot slaughter the manager in public like he did. But I understand frustrations. I can't. Who am I to call Ronaldo a disgrace when some of the things I've done in my career, and all of us have done in our career, and I know they get paid for their opinion. I just think they need to word it differently, because you all sound like fucking hypocrites.
When you are the greatest footballer ever, arguably, if not at least one of them, I understand that your ego in that moment is to a size that you're like, look, I deserve more respect than this. I think it's naive for anyone to think Ronaldo should be cool with that. This is the Michael Jordan of Man United here.
Speaking of a pro, we should come on, no matter. We could be Michael Jordan. If you were asked to come on for 2 minutes, so Ronaldo should have come on the pitch. But you're right, his ego, what he's contributed for Man United in the past, what kind of status he has in the game, that is a disgrace. You can't expect Ronaldo to come on with 2 minutes to go, especially when your manager said the week before, I didn't bring him on out of respect. Like I said, listen, I don't know what's going on in Ten Hag's thing. I didn't think he wanted Ronaldo in the football club, and he has played a blinder. What makes me laugh as well is that everyone's, what a great job he's doing, Man United are on the up, blah-de-blah-de-blah. They're 1 point less. 1 point less off this season than when they were in the previous season with Solskjaer, who was crap and got the sack. But Ten Hag
they've spent 250 million more, by the way.
But Ten Hag is unbelievable. And I hope it works out for him, because Man United are a big club. They've been in so much transition. They need to stick with a manager. But to say what an unbelievable job you've done, you're 1 point less off.
I think he's doing as good as he should be. Let's talk about the World Cup a bit, because it's on now. As we're recording this, England are about to play Wales later today. We're fresh off the back of a lacklustre game against America. In that game, one of the main criticisms of Gareth Southgate was his lack of ability to use players who are, similar to yourself in your prime, creative, fast, and there to get at defences and open the game up. And we just couldn't do that. And I think when I'm looking at Phil Foden sat on the bench, I'm wondering what people like you are thinking.
Phil Foden is... Pep Guardiola has said he is the best young player he's worked with. Obviously, Messi was young, but he was in the first team. But I'm talking about he's had all...
Yeah, he's brought them through.
He's brought all these players through Barcelona B and that. And he says Foden is the best young talent he has ever worked with. We are not letting him go on loan because I want him around me to have my coaching, to work with De Bruyne. Mm-hmm. So when you've got the greatest manager and coach talking about an English talent like that. Mm-hmm. So the way I spin it is, would Mbappe at France be on the bench?
Exactly.
Would Neymar be on the bench? When you've got these special talents, and he is real special, I think that Man City would beat the England team. If you put Man City 11 and you replicated that with the England 11, I fancy Man City to beat England quite convincingly.
I agree, yeah.
And he's one of the first names on the team sheet for Man City. They've spent 100 million on Grealish. He keeps Grealish out of the team. He keeps Mahrez out of the team. He booted
Sterling out the side.
Exactly.
So
Sterling got sold.
Left because Foden kept him out the team, and yet Sterling is starting.
So, for me, it is such a shame that we could be talking about... Obviously, everyone says Grealish is probably the closest thing we've had to a Gaza, but I honestly believe that Foden is the most special player we've had since Gaza. When you see a talent like that not being able to make the team, every other country he would be playing. So it does piss me off as an England fan watching it. And this is no disrespect to Jordan Henderson, because on the podcast I've give Jordan Henderson loads of love and showed you why he's in the team. Mm-hmm. But you're bringing Jordan Henderson. That to me is, we don't want to lose the game rather than we should go and beat USA. And then when I hear the quotes after, and we were in complete control, and the way John Stones and Maguire controlled the game, I thought their midfield three dominated our midfield three. The Leeds player, Tyler Adams.
We couldn't keep the ball, mate.
Just...
They did nothing with the ball. Yeah. They were lumping it forward, getting corners, and they were clumsy going forward in attack. But they were winning the ball back off us rapid pace, and I felt like our midfielders and our whole team was giving the ball up so easily. It was embarrassing, actually, and that was due to a lack of ball players on the pitch, really. And I also feel like maybe Southgate's personality filters through to the players, or his fear of losing, because when I watch Jude Bellingham pick a ball up and I look at him look side to side, look backwards and look for the easiest possible options, and I'm like, that's not who you are. I've seen you for Dortmund. You are one of the most confident attacking young players, arguably up there with the Foden in terms of natural talent, and we're playing so sheepishly.
This is one for you. So with Trent, and I've been a coach, and I've heard Gary Neville, and I've heard all the pundits, I've heard Shearer, I've heard everyone. What Trent can't do. We never embrace what players can do. Mm-hmm. What can he do? Could you imagine him against USA the other night? You're talking about Harry Kane got 2 touches of the ball inside the penalty box. Starved. Yeah. We have got the... I've never seen technique like it since David Beckham. And this is from a right back. He's incredible going forward, but all we seem to do is bash him of what he can't do. Okay, if you're that worried, you weigh it up and you're going, okay, he might get us a goal, but he might lose us 2 goals. I can understand that against a Brazil or a Spain, but when it's USA, Wales, come on, get Trent on the pitch. And listen, this is no knock, because Trippier has had an exceptional season at Newcastle. I went live. First game I went to watch as a fan was Newcastle-Chelsea just before the World Cup, and Newcastle was brilliant, and Trippier were brilliant. But Trent and this is no disrespect to Trippier, when you're talking about assists, like you said, he's nearly broke every assist record there is for a fullback already, and he's, 22, 23? He was another one I'd play him in all these games, and like you said, if we're then coming to Brazil and you're worried about Vinicius Junior, then hopefully Kyle Walker's fit, or Trippier, and you bring them in. But again, we love to tell players what they can't do.
There's been a lot of talk about the politics and that of the World Cup, and we don't have to go into it too heavy, but obviously there's been a lot of pundits saying what they're saying, but then they're all out there taking the money, and you've got people like David Beckham who got paid 150 million to promote this. I don't know, is there any feeling from you about whether or not you would want to work out there, or does it make you feel any kind of way?
If you come into my house, if I invite you around to my house, you abide by my rules. If you don't abide by my rules, you will not be welcome back into my house. That is as simple as that. So when they won the bid, this should have happened before the bid. All this shit that's going on and all this should have been squashed from early. As soon as their name come up, teams should have said, we're not going, or we're doing this, da-da-da-da. So now, with all this controversy, like with the alcohol, you know what this country is. You have to respect these people. That's just my take. Listen, do I agree with their beliefs? No, I don't. But we knew this 8 years ago, or whenever they got it, and now we're kicking off, and it's a joke. We're not wearing armbands and that. We shouldn't be allowed to wear the armbands. You know what this country, their rules. You agree to it. You're here representing. Well, get on with it. I heard from a mate who's over there that they're in the mall. There was loads of England fans, and obviously, get your tits out for the lads. You know that song. Yeah. They were singing to all the local women. Get your face out for the lads.
Right.
Honestly. And I'm just like, is it banter in their thing? Yes. But there's a code of conduct. You're in their country. You will get fucking...
Yeah.
You know, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So, the FA, we want to make a stand. Well, make Harry Kane take a yellow card and wear the fucking armband. You know what I mean? But, like I said, I just think it's all disrespectful to the country. Yes, we don't...
If you were captain... and that was you, what would you have done? Would you have put it on anyway, or would you have let them tell you what to do and took the lead from the FA? Because I feel like Harry kind of took instruction on that. Yeah,
we always get taken instruction. I can remember, I don't know if you know this story, so when Rio failed his drug test, and obviously he had his hearing to come, so he hadn't been proven guilty of anything. We had to play Turkey to qualify for the Euro 2004 European Championships. We only needed a draw. England fans were banned from going for some punishment, so you could imagine Turkey hostile as fuck. And Gary Neville calls a committee together, and this one no, seriously, this was I used to just think Gary Neville is like fucking a geek. And then like when I looked at him, I thought, fuck me, this is Minnie Ferguson. He calls this meeting in, like, honestly, he calls this meeting in, like, Bex is the captain, and he's just like everyone sit down. It was like, this is fucking unacceptable. Like, he hasn't even had a case and he's being banned from England. That's when does that happen? And he said, we're not playing. Well, he says, I'm not playing. He's my teammate, Man United teammate. I'm not playing. I think we should make a stance and say we're not playing. So we were like, I was like, fuck it, yeah. Seriously, I was thinking, this is quality.
Yeah, like, is there a bit of you that's like a high school kid, like any reason to rebel? Yeah. It's a bit of a laugh. Yeah, fuck it.
Angrio was my mate, and I was like, fucking brilliant. So like basically we left the room and everyone was in agreement. So Gary goes off to see some FA people, and the FA people were like, seriously, you will get absolutely pelted by the fans, the media. you're refusing to play for your country, and we'll have to play the under-21s. So,
he called his bluff then.
Yeah, and he was. Listen, you can't call Gary Neville's bluff, mate. Once he's got beliefs, like fucking. A lot of people say a lot about him, but I do love how he sticks to his morals. And
I mean, he did until the guitar money came, and he's like, you know what? We've been doing business with them for about 20 years. They're all right, actually. Yeah. So
then obviously Bex and Michael Owen must have spoke to agents. All players spoke to agents, and they realised about maybe, like you said, losing the sponsorships and that, and then that just got binned. The FA were just not having it. So the FA do take over. But
that's a cracking story.
Yeah, but with the armband, like you said, it's like, do you take one for the team if you really all believe this? Then yeah, you should take one for the team. But then again, when you go into someone's house, you have to abide by their rules. The rules are shitty, but that's how they live their life. Like you said, how many people go to all these countries for fucking extravagant holidays? They don't care about their rules then, if you know what I mean. So I don't know, it's a tough one.
When it comes to, obviously, LGBT footballers, I was wondering, actually, on the topic of this, did you know any footballers who hid their sexuality, like personally, or was that something that you were just completely unaware of?
I had my suspicions when I went to West Ham. It was the German player, Tommy Hitzelsberger, was it? Tommy Hitzelsberger. Fucking, I can't even remember his name. That's how much of a...
You remember what you thought of him?
No, that's how much of a shambles my fucking time at West Ham was. So no. But I had my suspicions that he was gay, but I never asked him, never treated him differently, and he came out a few years later, didn't he? I think when he retired, and said he was gay. I wasn't shocked. It was the same as when I did The Jungle. I'm a Celebrity. We had that pop star George, and I was like, in my head thinking, he's definitely gay. He didn't say nothing, and then a few months after The Jungle, he comes out and says he's gay. I have gay friends. I know gay people.
It makes you wonder why we're still sort of waiting for a high-profile player, because
I just think it's it should be so much easier to come out now.
People can be brutal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think for a footballer to take that on is going to require some fucking balls, unfortunately. And yeah, I wonder how long we'll be waiting. Again, I can't believe we're still waiting.
Do you think in a men's team sport, I'm just asking the question here, is like, say if I was gay and I brought it up into an office, and you said it's different in football. We share showers, we share baths, we like I don't know. So if I'm with a gay, like, I just walk around the change room with fucking dick flopping from ankle to ankle.
I bet you are, you bastard.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah. But you know what I mean? You like, and then all of a sudden there's a gay. Do I like? I don't know. Do you start to cover up a bit more? Do you like?
As in, do you mean to respect that person?
Yeah,
you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's just like.
And they may be feeling on that side as a gay man, like, I don't want to put the boys in a position where they have to feel a certain way about me, so I'll just leave it, just to keep it in my cell. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good conversation to have, and although it is awkward, and you know, we're two straight men trying to understand what it would be like to be in that position, it's fucking difficult. But you got to respect it and hope that one of them does feel comfortable, because then I think
it'd be like the 4 minute mile.
It'll happen.
When Roger Bannister broke the 4 minute mile, then everyone started to break it. And it just needs that one high profile player.
Do you keep in touch with many of your old teammates?
I'm really close to Jonathan Woodgate still, Jermaine Genus, who's doing really well.
Bellamy, maybe?
Of course, Bellis. I'll always be in touch with him.
There was a story told about him actually recently on Talksport by Graham Souness, how he cut him. He basically said he wouldn't play for us, so I took him to the chairman. So go on then, say it to him then. I'm not playing. And he's like, right, you're off.
Nah, that didn't quite go like that, but really? That story was...
How do you remember it?
I'll never forget this story. Again, when you're talking about fucking... You think Ronaldo's story is bad. So Someone had told Souness that Bella's said in the change room at the training ground before he was going to go out to training, if I'm going to be playing on the left or right wing, I'm just going to throw an injury in. So obviously when we've gone out to do shape, Bella's is obviously put on one of the wing positions, and and he said, fuck it, I'm walking in. I can't.
What, off the pitch? You just
so
left?
he's just said, I'm feeling my groin or whatever. My groin's a bit tight or something. So someone had told Souness this, probably fucking Al or Shay Given.
Will they teach us pets?
Nah, I just know that fucking Al wanted to probably rip Bella's head off. But saying that, every time Bella's did play, then that's guaranteed goals for Alan.
Yeah, they were like conflicted, weren't they? They worked so well together, but personalities complete different.
So we didn't think nothing of it. Then the squad goes up and Bella's is in the squad. And so I think the manager must have said, look, you're going to be playing up front or whatever. Must have conned him into it. So we go to Arsenal, we get into the change room. So usually you name the team at the hotel, doesn't even name the team at the hotel. So we're in the change room and he says the team's this, da-da-da-da-da, and subs da-da-da-da. Bellis is not even think, so Bellis is fucking fuming. So we play Arsenal. And
so soon as fuck with his head a bit.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to fucking try and fuck things, so I'll never forget this. The game finished and we're on the bus. Bellis is fuming, this fucking prick, and da-da-da-da. And then goes to, on the bus you have Sky, and it goes to Jeff Shreves and he's interviewing Souness in the tunnel. So he says to Souness, why is Craig Bellamy not playing? He went, Craig Bellamy's reported an injury. And Jeff was like, that's weird, because I asked Craig and Craig said he was fit to play. He said no, he's got an injury. So he's like, so Bella, this is where Bella's got a kind of power trip, because he knew the fans loved him and he knew the fans didn't love Souness, so he thought the fans were on his side. Oh, he's not fucking turned up. So we're literally sitting on the bus watching this. I'm not fucking having this, he said. He just gets off the bus and goes. So I'm thinking, what the fuck? So it goes back into the studio with Richard Keys and whoever the guest was, and they have to cut one of the guests. They go, sorry, we've got Jeff Shreves back in the tunnel as Bella. I'm thinking, I'm watching this. So
you're still on the bus.
So by this time, Graham gets on the bus, Souness, and Freddie Shepherd's on the bus. And Bella's was like, I was fit to play. It was his decision not to play me. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I'm thinking, I can't believe this. So I'm just thinking, because I know Graham's a fucking hard man, by the way. I'm thinking when he comes back on the bus, he's just going to get boshed up. But he didn't. He gets on the bus. Then Bella's arranges, I don't know if you can remember at the time, he arranges for Sky to come to his house and give us an exclusive interview because he was because he thought he had the fans on side. And then Souness couldn't protect him no more, and I think Souness said he refused to play, throwed in an injury, and then there was no way back for him. But that whole thing, we were on the bus and we were watching Bella run off the bus, and then next thing he's live on Sky. Fucking.
It's so childish, isn't it? When you think of it, it's so silly. Obviously, we mentioned Newcastle, so you know more about the Newcastle setup than I do. How's Eddie doing for a start? I mean, obviously it's going good, but what are you seeing that specifically is impressing you about Eddie?
I couldn't believe the power, energy and pace that you play with when I was watching him live at Chelsea. You were getting Chelsea to boot the ball long. You were going, I dare you to play. The keeper would play, and fair play to Joe Linton, because I've been one of his biggest critics, but the energy, he must have my lungs when I was playing. He can run all day, but with that power and pace.
His long legs and that, yeah.
And he just go, I just look at that team and identity, and I think that Eddie's motto is something about intensity, and it's our identity is our intensity. And you see that on the pitch, and the recruitment has been brilliant, bringing in Trippier, and
That Botman's a good player, isn't he?
Good player. And Bruno is just, again, it makes me mad when I'm watching Brazil and I see Fred playing. And this is no disrespect to Fred because he does well for Brazil, but Bruno has been in the top 5 probably players performing this season.
Yeah, in the league easily.
Everything Newcastle have done, I've loved. I went there as a fan. I couldn't believe the energy. It just reminded me of just thinking they're on to something. The only thing I worry about is that if you have a chance to go in Champions League and then you start to try and sign a superstar, and this is no knock on Eddie, will he be able to handle the Ronaldos, the Mbappe? You know what I mean? Where they could just like look at him and go, "Who the fuck are you? You're not like." It's different having a Poch, and I think it would be unfair for him because of what he's done to that club. And another one we can talk about, and everyone used to fucking hammer Steve Bruce. So everyone's saying about this transformation of Almiron. He ain't been transformed. Basically, when he was playing for Benitez or Steve Bruce, he was basically playing as a fullback because all your wingers used to do is defend the fullbacks. You used to defend your box and just boot the ball. Now you're on the front foot. He's got confidence because you're on the front foot and you're getting him the balls in the area where he can be destructive. There's no coincidence he's shining.
But Eddie Howe played him like that, to be
exactly.
fair. Yeah.
So that's where Eddie thing. But I'm just saying, Almiron doesn't all of a sudden become a bad player. It was just he was in a bad setup that did nothing for him. Now he's being in a system where he can flourish. Joe Linton has found a system that he can flourish. You've even played with Chelsea and you had Chris Wood, and I'm going like, how's he a player for Newcastle? But
I know, right?
It's crazy, but everyone just fits in. You had a centre half playing left back on the day who was fucking outstanding. I'm just going,
Dan Burn, yeah.
Fair play. I'm loving Newcastle, and I do still think they'll make the top 4.
Yeah, the thing about Eddie, and I really think you've made a good point there with how is this going to go, because right now Eddie commands respect of that dressing room, and there's nobody there in that team who has achieved a great deal yet. And I think that's a good thing for us, because there's this little underdog feeling about us, and it kind of reminds me of Jurgen Klopp when he took over at Liverpool. Very similar, intense style. If you look at what Trippier and Almiron do on the right side, it's like Trent and Mo Salah. It's exactly the same 100%. Sort of theory, just not as good. But it's looking pretty good this season, you know. And I feel like for Eddie, he's such an intelligent guy. I never watch an interview with him and cringe. Like, that was the Steve Bruce. Like, it was hard watching his interviews. It was embarrassing as a fan to think that's our manager. Whereas with him, he articulates himself well. And I just hope that we don't get someone in who... I think there's a strategy in place for recruitment in terms of personality. Like, they're like no arseholes, basically, is what we're looking at. Like, first and foremost, we need people who are likeable. And I feel like Bruno just sums that up. The kid loves the area, loves the fans, and
you can tell.
Yeah, he's playing for us, and in a way, like it's kind of reminiscent of the feeling as a fan I had of watching the Bobby team of like, we can be anyone on our day here. You know, when we went to Arsenal and they were top of the league and you played in that game, and you know, I remember you jumping on Shearer's shoulders after the penalty. We were top at Christmas, and I remember thinking, we're fearless, and I've not felt that way since that day. Like,
I sensed it. I sensed
20
it from
years
the fans.
have gone by.
I sensed it from the fans. I couldn't believe the energy. I was just like, it was giving me goosebumps. And you're talking to Bruno. I didn't realise how actually good he was until I watched him live. He's so good on the ball as well. He does the ugly side so well. He's just a player.
The best thing I can say about Bruno is he's a Sir Alex Ferguson player. Like, he, to me, like, I look at him, I think you've got the nasty side, you've got the skill. Like, he is the complete midfielder. And I remember I seen him like twice, and I came back to the lads on the football show and I said, I like, he's like a Cesc Fabregas level player. Like, he could be that level. I'm not saying he will, but that was just immediately. It was just like, when you see him in person, it's so yeah, you think top 4?
Yep.
That means someone's going to lose out. We got City and Arsenal who look set for top 4. So, who do you think? Who's the other fourth?
I worry about Chelsea. I really do.
They look a bit cobbled together, don't they?
Again, we're talking about Eddie, and then you have that elite, world-class player. Do they kind of... And I'm so happy that Potter got his chance. So happy that he got his chance because he deserved it. But then I'm thinking, you do not sack Tuchel for Graham Potter. That's just my opinion. I've spoke to people who have had Tuchel as a coach and they've had Potter as a coach. Obviously, I'm not going to name them. And they're just like, it's just like, you cannot compare the two.
In what way?
Just knowledge of the game, tactics, just the way they are.
I'll ask you after the pod. I won't drop you in it.
So
when
and I also know people who have had Tuchel and then they've had other top managers and they go, trust me, Tuchel is fucking incredible.
But he lost his way at Chelsea. Is there a? Do you think that the players down tools and let him down?
But do you think that could be also the Americans are coming in and have started splashing the cash on 60 million for fullbacks from fucking Brighton, and he's going. You don't know. It just seemed to me a bit like the Scott Parker.
Did you get an explanation from your source of why Chelsea lost their way under Tuchel then? Because it doesn't make sense if you're saying that Tuchel is...
You got to remember, this is the same Chelsea that I watched the game against Tottenham when he went crazy after the game with the handshake, but they absolutely pummeled Tottenham. I know you can say, well, that's Tottenham are getting pummeled by most teams of the big boys, but they just said Tuchel was on a different planet. And my thing with Potter is, I think Chelsea having problems is he's always changing the team. It's like he's trying to keep all these superstars happy. All of them. We've got to keep... It's just like... it's impossible to name the 11. I can name you Newcastle's 11 basically every week. I can name Man City's 11 for the big game. Chelsea's, I haven't got a clue. He's playing Sterling wing-back. He's playing... One minute he's playing Aubameyang, then Aubameyang's on the bench for the next 2 games. Then he's playing this full-back. Then he's playing... So... listen, I was so happy he got his chance, but I always worried that when you've got that world-class players and then they're not really buying into your beliefs, do they just go, yeah, good one?
Well, you made the point about Eddie Howe, about can he handle those big names, and Eddie is lucky that he potentially will have a slow build-up to that and he'll be able to very much pick his own big names. Potter, he's been thrown in at the deep end, in the shark tank, and we're going to find out quickly if he can handle those.
But then I worry that when the transfer window happens in January, because you lot are doing so well, does the owners go, come on, we've got to give it a go to...
I think they'll listen to Eddie a bit more, because they seem to be... We don't seem to have a strategy in place that is anything like Chelsea's.
Yeah,
Chelsea's is a bit crazy to me. Could we talk about some of your former England teammates then? Because they've gone into management. Obviously, you've done coaching at a high level, and you've got Lampard, Gerrard. You know, it's been difficult for Gerrard, and Lampard's had his moments as well. How do you say it overall, how they're doing?
So obviously Frank went to Derby, and everyone was saying what a great job he did at Derby. And he came sixth and they got to the playoff final. But Gary Rowett got sacked for coming fifth the season before. He obviously had his Chelsea contacts. He got Mason Mount on loan. There he had Tomori on loan. I thought he did a good job at Derby, but not the way it was being billed as what an unbelievable job. And then obviously he's a Chelsea legend and Chelsea come calling. Do I think it was a bit too early? I do. But you can't turn that down. You've always got to back yourself.
They had a transfer ban as well with him there, so that was even more tricky for him, I guess.
If they didn't have their transfer embargo, would Reece James have played? Would Mason Mount have played, who have come 2 of their popular players? Because they probably would have spent £150 million on
Reece James is a beast. What a player.
They would have probably paid £150 million for a right back.
Yeah.
So, to be fair, with the cards that Frank was dealt, he did an okay job again. One thing I will say I think's a real positive about Frank, he then goes to Everton and he realises, fucking hell, I've like downgraded my tools here. So
it must be a shock to the system when you're a class player yourself and you're looking at these players and you're like,
they've got no goals in their teams. They defend for their lives and they're hard to score goals against. So he has changed his identity. I like his versatility that he's shown.
What about Gerrard? Because Gerrard, he did well with Rangers, but he gets the big job. I wonder how he recovers from that. His first big job going bad like that.
The thing is, though, I think on your CV, when I talked about as a player, we always want to talk about the bad things that they can't do rather than the good things. I think with managers, once you've had a success that is on your CV, that I've won the Scottish Premier League undefeated, he'll get another job. I hope he gets another job.
He will, I suppose. I mean, Steve Bruce made a living out of it, didn't he?
Yeah, so no, it's true. That's one thing that annoys me, especially. Don't want to bring up the colour, but you see the lack of black managers, but everyone gets chances, but it just seems that we find it extremely hard. Look, Paul Ince has finally got back into management after about a 20-year hiatus. You talked about Lampard and Gerrard getting big jobs. Sol Campbell had an unbelievable career on a par with them. He gets Macclesfield.
Do you think people get a better opportunity just down to their skin colour, even though they've had similar careers? Then you're seeing that more and more.
Yeah, 100%. If you stereotype a black player, it's about their athleticism, pace, power. It's never about their football IQ.
Yeah.
And then with white players, it's about technique.
Yeah, if they're talking about Harry Kane, they speak about him like
technique,
more of a smart player.
IQ, smart player. So I'm thinking, then when it goes up into these executive roles, have they still got that mindset of lack of IQ, not brains, it's just about power and I don't know. I've never been...
Well, there are some positives which I think we can focus on. Patrick Vieira, for example, proper job he's doing there for Crystal Palace. I'm really impressed with him.
Exactly like Potter.
And Colo Torre's just been given a job in... I can't remember who's...
Wigan.
Yeah, sorry, Wigan.
So from Leicester. So again, fair play to Brendan Rodgers. So Brendan Rodgers always, from the Celtic days, he got Colo Torre in. And what he's thinking is that he likes to sign a lot of African players, and they have a complete different religion, they have complete different beliefs, and he can't understand that. So he goes and recruits Colo Torre,
genius, really,
as a coach, but someone that these players, if they've got problems, he can say, well, this is Ramadan for certain players and that. And I think that is very good management, because if you've got a team that is dominated by black players and you've got all white staff, I don't care who you are, you're not going to know these players more than a black. You
need to be able to relate to them,
exactly,
for sure.
So I remember doing the article about the Rooney Rule, and I was saying I didn't really understand the Rooney Rule, so I just gave a great headline. I don't want a job because of the colour of my skin. That was the headline. And then I had so many black players, like the older players who had been through shit, who had finished their career trying to get jobs, they couldn't, and they were like, yeah, what are you doing? You're killing us. And I was like, well, I'm being honest, I don't want, and they were like, it's not about that. It's the Rooney Rule is that black people have to be interviewed. There has to be evidence to be shown that they have been interviewed.
And the fact that that's a necessity really is terrible, isn't it? Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just being, and they were like, yeah, but you don't understand. You'll realise. And I'm like, well, fuck. And then fucking here we are, like, I'm now coaching and like I'm doing the under 18s and 23s, and I'm doing a good job. Like, I'm even doing a good job at Ipswich under 23s, and then they signed an assistant manager on the Thursday to come and work with me. And then the manager of the first team gets the sack on the Saturday. So I'm the so in the football club, you have the first team, the under 23s, the under 18.
Okay.
I'm the manager of the under 23s. They signed someone to be my assistant. Okay. So he's working under me. Okay. On the Thursday. The manager on the first team gets sacked on the Saturday. I get a text from a mate saying, the guy they brought in as your assistant is now caretaker manager. I said, what? I swear to God, I just was just like, and I'm an Ipswich boy, bred, love the club. Like
you're a lifer at Ipswich.
I just like, it is what it is. You just.
Did you speak to anyone at the club about how that made you feel?
Yeah, so I got a text from my assistant who was now...
By the way, I'm your new gaffer.
Yeah, and he was saying that he'd want me to assist him and we've got to do a game. I was like, I'm not assisting you. I'm like, nah, I'm done. Like, no chance. I spoke to the people above and I basically expressed how hurt, disappointed I was. They just explained that they've employed this guy because he's had actual experience of being a manager in the lower leagues.
I mean, you played in the Champions League.
Yeah.
You know, you played in a top 4 Premier League club at the highest level. You've literally coached all the way through. You were in the England team with David Beckham, and yet this guy knows more than you do, apparently.
Yeah.
You literally know that club inside out, mate.
So I literally was like, I don't know if I can do this. And then they pulled up the old heartstrings, didn't they, and said, well, if you don't want to do it for yourself and do it for us, do it for the club because the club needs you. So, yeah, I assisted him for a few games and, yeah, it was just... I was a shell of myself. I was just going through the motions, really.
Mentally? You just couldn't?
Yeah, just mentally. They broke me. Mentally broke me.
Fuck me, mate.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was that.
Yeah. Just like, I couldn't. I was just thinking, if you can't get a chance for a couple of games, like, my end goal was always to be Ipswich Town manager. That's what I want to be. But after that, I was just like, one, I'm too emotionally connected to the club. I don't want to ever be manager of the football club, and it's hard to say, but...
Do you mean, why too emotionally connected? What do you mean? Because some fans might hear you say that and go, well, that's what we want. We want you to love the club.
But... So, when I left the club, I did a podcast, and, like, I was bigging up my players, and, like, there was a player who's not signing a contract, and fans had been giving him stick, and I'm like, well... You don't know why he's not signing a contract. Like, he's gone out on loan, scored all these goals, he's come back. He sees no pathway, so you can't knock someone for, like, because
you've seen the bigger picture.
Yeah, so I'm like, because I just love the club. I don't know. I just feel that, yeah.
Is it kind of better to be a little disconnected as manager, do you think, so that you operate more in a logical, more ruthless...
So on my pro licence, on our pro licence, got some good big hitters on the pro licence as well. It's not about what you do on the grass, it's how you manage above, like how I could have managed that situation better, how you speak to certain people. And they always say that it's not healthy, like, you finish football, you go home, you're thinking of the football. You have got to have a switch off. You have got to have your family life. And I've never been a manager, but even being the under-23 manager, my missus would be like, can you just stop? Like, this is like 8 o'clock at night or whatever. And I'm just like, I just can't. I just want to be the best. I just got to give these the best opportunity to,
And for your mental health, that's a bit draining, right? Because we all need that rest and that period to recover and then to be refreshed and give your best the next day. If you're running yourself into the ground, that can't be healthy.
But then I think that when I'm on the training ground, that's when I'm alive. Like, even when I left to have a sabbatical, I'm just like, I need to be on. I just need them duties. I don't know if it's because my whole life has been around the environment of football clubs and banter and that, and I just love my boys. What I thought was really touching as well, that when I left the club, all my team, they tweeted about me and the best coach, and I just thought that was great testament to how much work and endeavour I put into him. And listen, I was a hard taskmaster as well. Because no, seriously, why I was so good for them is that I always used me as an example. I played for England by the time I was 20. I had Man United wanted me, I had Chelsea wanted me, I played in Newcastle with the Champions League, like going through all these things. And I said, I only had 30 caps for England, didn't win anything in my career, always injured. Do you know why? Because my standards as a player were shit. So this is why I have high standards as a coach to drive you, because if your standards drop, I will fucking be on you.
It's nice to see that now you've grown so much as a person, you're able to talk to these boys and to hold them accountable in a way that you didn't hold yourself accountable, and give them what you could have done with. It must be kind of therapeutic, that, in a way, to be a big brother and a father figure in a way. Let's talk about when the illness came along. First noticing differences.
Basically what it was, I had a problem with my liver. It got first spotted in probably about 2002, and I was taking medication. There was everything fine. I could still drink, could still do everything, and it was probably about 2015, because obviously when you stop playing football, I have a specialist in Ipswich I go to see, Mr. Williams, and he said that you have this condition PSC. I don't know why they said you've got this condition, PSC. So I was like, oh, what does that mean? He said basically you have your liver, you have loads of tubes off your liver, and they're becoming so scarred inside. So when they become so scarred, it's hard for things to go through them. So I was like, oh. So I said, all this medication I've been taking in the past then, was I not meant to be taking it? He said, well, there's a good case. So I'm already thinking, fucking hell. The amount of games people have said I missed because of my medication back in my days, fucking I have a case against all these fucking crap doctors who said that. But obviously, he was saying, you don't want to go down that road because they can say at the time you did have this and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. So he said, you're going to need a liver transplant, but probably when you're about 70, 75. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I was okay because that seemed so far away.
Of course.
So this was in about 2015, and obviously I get my bloods monitored every month. I have scans on my liver every 6 months to a year, and everything was doing all right. He was pleased, and then it was probably, I had COVID. I got sent home from Ipswich because I had COVID. So I was probably a week in bed with COVID, and then it was probably about 2 weeks later. I was literally, when I wake up in the night for a piss, it was like pitch black. We have like these dimming lights in the bathroom, but they're really low. But when I was pissing, I was half asleep. It was like my piss was illuminating the whole room. I swear, I can't explain.
I really did not expect this to come
seriously,
out of
you. It was like,
lightsaber.
You know, one of them fucking
lightsaber things.
Yeah,
glow
and
sticks.
I was like, fuck me, I must be dehydrated. All I kept thinking was dehydration, so I didn't really think nothing of it. And then leading up to, in them 2 weeks, there was Lee O'Neill, who was head of academy, and he kept going to me, you got fucking yellow. Your eyes are yellow. But again, I was like looking in the mirror and I could see some yellow in the bottom of them, and I didn't really pay attention. But this piss, I was drinking litres and litres of water, and every time my piss was just like this I can't explain the colour.
What? Just bright, really?
Just real bright. And I was just like, okay. Then I started getting this itchiness, like itching sensations all over my body. It would come on full on for a day, and then it would go, and then it'd come on. It was just like where you're constantly like you've got fucking nits and that. And I'm like, fucking the dog's got nits or something. Just like thinking, what the fuck's going on? So then the takeover happens at Newcastle, and the first game's Newcastle-Tottenham. So Sky get in touch with me and say, do you want to do the Newcastle game with David Ginola? So I said, yeah. So we're pitch side, And then we go up to the studio in the far corner, to watch the game and then get ready for the half time. And it was probably about 5 minutes before half time, the makeup lady comes on just to give you a spruce up. And she was like, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Your eyes are really yellow." So I didn't think nothing of it. But you know when you see like Jamie's face, Jamie Redknapp and Dave Jones, the presenter, they're like looking at me like, "So are you like?" So I'm thinking, they're starting to worry me now. So obviously the game finishes. I get back on the train, down full of fucking Geordies. I then turn on my phone and I've got hundreds of messages. One from my daughter saying, "Dad, your eyes are really yellow." There was one from my missus's sister saying, "You need to go doctors as soon as you get back." So now I'm thinking, fucking hell, something's definitely wrong here now. So I thought, fuck it, I'm not going to the doctors Monday, I'm going to the hospital. So I went to the hospital Monday. They transfer me straight to Addenbrooke's at Cambridge, and I'm in hospital for about 12 days. And I'll never forget when the first lady, she comes in about 6 o'clock in the morning. I've only just woke up, and she says, "I'm sorry, but you need a liver transplant." And you know, in Hollywood films when the camera just goes and zooms into your face, it was just like, I always thought liver transplant or heart transplant means death. That's just the way I see it. And I just thought, fuck, she's just said I'm basically dead, and she's just left me. I've got no one here. It's 6 o'clock in the morning.
Did you not explain why?
No,
or anything?
It was just the most. She just went, "Hi, Kieron. So we've seen your scans and your bloods, and yeah, you need a liver transplant. I can see this is a lot for you to digest. I'll be back later." And she just went, and I was just sitting there going, "I'm dead." Honestly, I've never been so scared in all my life. Like, it was just fuck. Like, it was mad. It was just like, so then having to ring up wife.
How did you explain that to them? Because at that point, you're not clued up at all either. You're thinking, so, are you telling them, I think I'm...
So, when I rang my wife and I said, "I need a liver transplant," she was just, you could tell she went in complete shock and didn't, "What? How can they not give you a second?" Like, and I felt so sorry for her, because when I was saying I'm going to the hospital, she was like, "It's just probably fucking long COVID." So then now when I say liver transplant, you have that guilt, which she didn't have to have. It's nothing to feel guilty about. It was just her opinion that I had long COVID. And then she just, because I hadn't been given any answers, she wanted the answers, and she couldn't come up the hospital because of COVID, and she was getting mad. "Well, did you ask this?" And I was just like, "This."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like,
she's panicking, and then you're panicking,
and then I was just like, then I had to tell my mum. And the thing with me is that you've got to be brave for them.
Oh yeah.
Because if I ring up the phone sobbing and that, they'll be like, so I'm like holding this all together, like, oh my God, my life is fucked. And then the next person I called out, so it was my wife and my mum, and then I rung DJ Spoonie, and then I just let it all out.
Oh, because your mate you could handle that with your mate.
And he was just like, yeah, it was just fucking. But then when I went to Addenbrooke's, the way they handled everything.
Is that another hospital?
Yeah, it's the one in Cambridge.
Oh.
And then so they've got a liver transplant team. So they have the recovery nurses, they have the surgeon, they have the dietitian, they have the psychologist. They bring people in that they've who have had successful operations. And then when they come and spoke to me, that negative mindset of I'm dead was, I'll piss this. If you know what I mean? Just the way that woman explained it to me, compared to how they explained it, and all the turmoil and the grey. See this grey beard? It was all black until I went into the hospital. And then,
I don't think doctors realise like the weight that their words can carry.
It was so, and then like the surgeon was so confident, not in an arrogant way. Just, I do this for a living. It's like riding a bike. You're so young. Because one of the other things you do there, they have to find out if you're a candidate. So yes, you need now you have to do all the tests to see if you're a worthy candidate.
Okay.
So strength tests, grip tests, freaking your lung test. Because it's a 10-hour operations, they need to know, is your body going to be able to withstand 10 hours? And obviously, because I'm so young and so fit, I pissed it. But the way each and every one of them explained it to me, I was just like, you know what, bring it on. I can't wait to have this and get this done and live my life properly now. But that was, that first couple of days from that Newcastle game was the scariest shit I've ever had to deal with, ever.
Has it been hard to be stuck in this period where you're waiting? Well, because I don't understand the process that you're in now.
It was very hard initially because you have to have your phone on 24/7 and you have to give them 2 numbers. And they will ring your phone twice. If they can't get hold of that, they ring someone else's phone twice, and then the third person. If you don't answer, you miss your transplant. You go back to square one.
That would set
that could ring. It can ring at any time. Most motorbike deaths, or God forbid, happen late at night. So it could be early hours in the morning when you get a call. So you've got to have your phone on at all time, and you can't leave an hour's and a half's radius of Cambridge. So Ipswich is like 50 minutes from Cambridge. Okay. So like that's one of the reasons why I had to leave the 23s as well, is that if we're playing Cardiff, I'm out of the radius. If I'm on the bench and I get a call, I'm fucked. Okay. I'm going to think so.
So you're in a position where you have to sit tight and wait on them finding a liver?
Yeah, so that was when they said I was due to have one in 3 to 6 months. Then we get to a year and I'm like, I'm still waiting. They said, Kieron, look, if we're being honest, your bloods are doing so well at the moment, you could be waiting another year. And they suggested we suspend you on the list. So it don't mean you leave the list. So all that means is when you're suspended on the list, you can go on holiday, you can go outside the radius, you can start doing things. But when we're doing your bloods every month, if your bloods are showing signs of deterioration, we will activate you back on the list. And then like that. So in a way, them deactivating me on the list means I can do more things. Like I said, I went to Asia to do some World Cup games. I'm doing work. I'm doing some media bits and pieces. I'm going to watch different clubs coach and see them train. And
I've got a question, because I'm thinking, if I'm you, obviously, you know, you've not been a saint, but you've lived a good, clean life. And you told me that the highest people on those lists in terms of the quickest to get them are people who haven't. They're alcoholics, for example. Now, I'm not here to slag alcoholics off because I love a drink, but is there a bit of you, just as a human, thinking, these guys have done all that damage to themselves, I'm trying to live a good life here and to use my body to help these kids on the training ground and to just give an impact to the community here. Is it frustrating?
That's how I felt initially. That's how I felt. What the fuck? Someone who abuses their body. I'm someone who's never fucking taken drugs or anything. Yes, I've drunk, but the problem with my liver is nothing to do with alcohol, nothing. It's just a condition I got. I was fucking fuming at the system. When I spoke to the team, again, they're brilliant. Alcoholics is a disease, is an illness. So my illness, alcohol to them is their illness. Most of these alcoholics need alcohol to function properly.
On a mental health level,
like I said, with the Gary Speed, when he committed suicide, I was furious with how can you leave 2 kids? But then when I start to do the research, it's an actual illness. If you know what I mean. So I can't then be a hypocrite because I know that They don't want to be an alcohol. This is the way they function.
Mm-hmm.
My only concern is that when they get the new liver,
they're still alcoholics.
Do they become an alcoholic? Yeah.
Well, they are. Yeah. And we've seen that with George Best. George Best got a new liver and then destroyed himself.
So that's the only thing that would be really disappointing. But listen, if they've got weeks to live and they have an illness, I think that they should be top of the list. That's just the way I see it now. And like you said, when I do start to deteriorate with jaundice and they can't get rid of the jaundice, I think I will have my operation. So
okay, I really appreciate you telling us about that, mate, because that was fascinating. Ivan Toney, he's been done for gambling. It's not the first time, I'm sure it won't be the last. I remember you were part of the generation where I guess it was cards on the bus, betting this, that and the other. What's your thoughts on it? The lad's looking like he's going to miss. He's probably going to be banned for a while, which is a real shame because he's a quality footballer. Do you think it's right that they ban footballers for gambling?
I always used to believe that if you bet on a match that you are playing and you can affect the outcome, then you shouldn't bet.
Mm-hmm.
If he wants to bet on
other games,
Newcastle versus Chelsea, for instance, the other day, I don't see what's wrong with that.
By the laws, and I looked into this, apparently the idea is that you might know those guys.
Oh, you mean so?
So he might text the guy and go,
and
could you just do a handball for us in this match by any chance? Like that's the way they're looking at it. But I mean, I think I'm in the same boat as you. I think as long as you're not in the game, I don't think it should be that big of a deal.
I remember Michael Chopper as a young lad at Newcastle who had serious gambling problems and had heavies wanting to break his kneecaps and all sorts.
Jesus.
And I can remember we had a big card school, but we were on big dough, and this is an 18-year-old kid on probably 300, and he used to try and get involved in card schools, and then I had a...
You mean at Newcastle? Yeah.
Michael Chopper.
What kind of money are we talking about? Because people will be interested in that for sure.
So we'd always used to bring like a couple of bags of cash just to play at hotels. A good one was Craig Bellamy and Lauren Robert. So we were playing free card. They basically put all the cash in, and it's like, by this time it's like 500 open, 500 open, 500 open, 500. The cash was already in. So Bella's was like, I owe at 500, I owe at 500. I at 500. So Bella's has like looked at me and gone, can I raise it more? Of course you can. I'll go $1,000. And then Robert's going, I'll go $1,000. I'll go $1,000. And they're going forever, right?
How much money do you think was in there by the end?
About 50 to 60 grand easily. So as this is going on, I'm going, Craig, can I have a look at your cards? So I've looked at Craig. He's got 3 threes. It's like, cannot be beat. Cannot be beat. So I'm thinking, what the fuck? So I'll never forget it. So they're going back and forth, and then Craig helps him out and just says, you know what, I'll see ya. And Craig goes, I got 3 threes. And then Lauren goes to take the jacks. Takes all the cash. Craig's like, we're all going, what are you doing? And he's like, in France, 3 jacks beats 3 threes. And we're like, no, you're in England. He was like, I don't pay. And by the way, Lauren Robert was a hard bastard.
Oh, really?
I swear to God, don't fuck with Lauren Robert.
I mean, he had some good kicks on him, for sure.
He had a fucking fight with Andy Griffin on the training ground once, and that was just like...
Oh, no,
Griff just went straight up to him, and he didn't even flinch, and honestly, I was just like, Robert, mate.
What happened?
Robert started to rag him on the floor and get on top of him, and then everyone obviously...
All right, so...
But to take he didn't expect the punch. It was just a clean whack, and he just like...
Whatever, yeah.
And Griff was a fucking mad fucker as well.
Yeah, he's the one who scored the goal against Juventus, right?
Yeah. So, and then Robert was like, I'm not paying. And Craig was going, you've got to pay. And like, everyone's just like, oh my God, you've got to pay. Chopper, I was saying, I had a bookie, and he'd ring me up and say, can you put 50 grand on like Barcelona to be winning at half time and full time, and it gets him like 60 grand back. So I'm thinking, I don't think he's got 50. Anyway, I'm like, all right, I'll put it on. Then they'll lose. So he's like 50 grand down. And I'm like, I felt sorry for him because he wanted to do it the following night with Real Madrid, and it was draw half time, full time. and he would have won his money back, kind of thing, cleared the debt. And I said, Chops, I'm not putting that bet on for you. I don't think you've got 100 grand in you. Yes, you got potential to earn that, but you can't be gambling like this. And what made it worse is Real Madrid did draw. Did win at half time and full time. And you know when you're thinking, oh, the poor cunt.
He's sitting there watching, just sobbing, thinking, that bastard, if he just put the fucking bet on.
So the next day I go to Al and say, Al, I think Chops has got a problem. He said, is it all right if I tell Freddie Shepherd? I said, yeah, because I don't know what he's on, but 50 grand, losing 50 grand when you're on 50 grand a week is heartbreaking. So if you're on fucking 500 quid, whatever, if he has to pay me back
for those who don't know, Michael Chopra was seen as very much a young star in the making, and Newcastle, they had high hopes for him to go on and become a first team regular. They did often compare him to Shearer, which obviously is comparing anyone to him is silly, but his future was supposed to be very bright, and it never, God bless him, it never happened for him in that way. He did have a decent career.
If you hear the stories of his gambling and fucking people turning up to kill him, and he used to have to go into his bedroom and put chairs up against the door, sleep with knives under his bed because he was just scared that people were going to come and just fucking annihilate him at any time. No wonder he didn't fulfill his potential as well.
Because he's probably wrecked with dread.
That's what I mean. And like with the Ivan Toney situation and the betting, fucking gambling can turn into an illness. That's all I'd say.
My one problem with it is I think a lot of things can be an illness. Alcohol, cheeseburgers, gambling. I think the way people are about gambling, like the way Paul Merson goes on about it, and I appreciate Paul Merson had a big problem with it, and he's not wanting that to happen to other people, but don't try and ruin my fun. Just because you can't stop eating cheeseburgers doesn't mean we should close down all the McDonald's. Do you know what I mean? And it's the way they talk about it. I feel like those who have self-restraint get fucked over. And I just think if Ivan Toney can control himself and he's not actually betting in games that he's playing in, I don't think it should be that big of a deal. But we'll find out. It's a shame he lost out on the World Cup. I think that played a major role in him not going. Gareth Southgate, he's Mr. Clean, and he's not going to want that.
Lucky Gary Neville's not in squad then, because it's again innocent and put
it would have been a protest there, right?
Yeah, no one would have been going to the World Cup.
Well, thanks for your time today, bro.
No problem, pal.
I appreciate it. It's Kieron Dyer once again on the True Geordie podcast. Absolute legend, gent of a man, and he played for Newcastle, so he's all right by me. Thanks for coming on, bro.
No problem.
Cheers, mate.